Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks!
Hey, were you guys expecting my usual intro? Well, today is going to be something different. Today is going to be a super gush fest, a super metal complex gush fest. This is the Civivi Ortis, both in carbon fiber and Damascus, and the standard version in FRN and 9CR 18 MOV. What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I have a very exciting review for you guys. This knife is, in a lot of ways, more of exactly the same thing that we've been seeing from the budget knife world, right? But in a lot of ways, it's also just everything that I would want to see, but just in a spectacular culmination. This is truly an excellent knife by whatever standard. I review a lot of knives on this channel. I review knives that are inexpensive. I review knives that are very expensive, multiple thousands of dollars. I've handled tons and tons and tons of knives, and I am constantly on a quest to find better versions of knives in certain price ranges, right? This is going to be a recommendable knife. I will link this knife right down in the description so that you can get it, both this version for around $40 and this version for around $80. They are spectacular knives. I'm going to do the full review. This is definitely one of my favorite budget knives of all time. Perhaps, we'll see, perhaps the best budget knife that I've ever handled. And it is certainly one of my favorite knives of 2020. Anybody who's familiar with Civivi knows that they generally knock it out of the park when they come out with a new model. I really think this is something exceptional. I bought this knife pretty quickly after I saw it for the first time. And we also had this knife actually donated down here. This one was donated to the channel. I'm realizing I should have had his note out here. This was donated by to the channel by this gentleman here, actually. I want you guys to check out Everyday EDC on YouTube. Check out his Instagram at everyday_EDC_77, and then also his Twitter at EDC Everyday. The redundancies are on purpose. I find that humorous. Thank you very much for sending this in, for donating it. Really happy to share this information with you guys. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting the channel. If you'd like to support this channel, there's a link for Patreon right down in the description. And please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I'm going to move this flashy one out of the way here real quick, and I'm going to give you guys a measurement of this knife real quick. Overall length of the Civivi Ortis is coming in at 7.5 inches overall. The total blade length on this guy is about 3.3 inches overall, and the cutting edge is coming in right about 3 inches thanks to a fairly generous forward choil. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall, though I think it's important to point out that the cutting edge between these two is almost identical for a substantially, smaller profile, shorter handle, lighter weight, right? But you can still get a full grip on it. We're going to talk about that. The ratios on this knife are just excellent. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. You can see here actually the similarities in the handle profile. Extremely similar handle profile. It's very Benchmade Griptilian-y or Ritter Hogue-y, whatever you want to call it. Ritter Hogue-y. Oh boy. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Another excellent comparison here. We have substantially more cutting edge, similar handle shape and ergonomic positions, right, and just a 1/4 inch more in overall length. Interesting size comparison there. And last but not least, the Benchmade Mini Griptilian. Mini Griptilian coming in at 6.25 inches overall. You can see here what I'm talking about with the handle profile. Very similar, not so much in here carved out, but the overall shape very similar. Not so much of a raise back here. just a slimmer handle profile and a little longer than the Mini Griptilian. How's the action on this guy? This is a Civivi. It's running on bearings. The action is exactly what you'd expect. The flipper tab, the angle of it is slightly angled up. It's small, unobtrusive. It's got some jimping up there, but it's nicely knocked down. This is very comfortable to flip. It's very comfortable to disengage, right? We have this raised liner in here. Move it out of the way, no double clutch, right? It can be shaken shut. It actually doesn't take much to shake it shut. And then mine, the one that I ordered for myself, is almost identical. Almost exactly the same feeling. The feeling of consistency between these two, and honestly, Civivi knives in general, they are extremely consistent with their quality. I have no complaints about the action whatsoever, and something else that I really appreciate is, yes, you can do the reverse flick. You can also, I'm sure, can we Spidey drop it? Yeah, you totally can do that. If for those of you who find that necessary with your knives, right? But you can do it. Fidget factor is there. Everything is in the right place. Oh, crispy. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Get out my tools here. As usual, you can find my tools down in the description. These two guys are very inexpensive. This Scout leather driver is a little more expensive, actually quite a bit more expensive, but it's all down there for people who want to check it out. I'm going to guess everything is T8 as per usual. In fact, I think I already know that. I can't remember if I've messed with this a little bit. T8. Sorry, T8. And T8. Yeah, everything's T8. Perfect. The pocket clip screws are T6. That's fine. I don't count it off for that. Minimal hardware. 2 screws on each side. Pivot. It's likely captive. I believe that's the case with all Civivis, or at least the more recent ones, right? Great. No issues there whatsoever. Let's go ahead and talk about carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here that this knife is contoured and slightly thinner than the Spyderco Para 3. How about length and height up against the Para 3 and PM2? Yeah. These two, like I usually say, have a bit kind of awkward carry profiles. Nobody ever really seems to complain about it. Yeah, there's nothing obtrusive here. This knife is not tall, it's not long, it's not thick, it's not heavy, even with the flipper tab, which is very low profile. There's just not an issue here whatsoever. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. The blade on this guy is very thin, at least on the spine. Well, actually, on the spine and behind the edge. We're going to talk about that here in a sec. Yeah, 116 thousandths on the spine. Very, very thin. That's as per usual with Civivi. They generally grind their blades pretty thin. Let's go ahead and do a measurement of weight on this guy. Now, we are looking at, on this guy, some form of fiberglass reinforced nylon, right? Grivery, injection mold plastic, whatever you want to call it. Really looks nice. Really does. I was convinced that this was G10 looking at pictures, and I didn't find out till later that the standard version of this is FRN. FRN bothers me because it feels a little bit cheaper or a little bit more hollow than G10, right? And it's no better emphasized than in the Benchmade Bug Out. It's just a solid, it's got a teeny tiny steel cartridge liner in that thing, and then it's hollowed out grivery, and it just feels so cheap. I understand some people love it. I've made that, you know, my feelings on that very clear. This guy actually has steel liners underneath, and that really helps with the feeling of solidity. So as far as FRN knives go, this really doesn't bother me. It also has this very visually appealing and appealing to the touch texture pattern right here. This sort of faux bolster thing going on. That is nice. Transition from here to this area right here they carved out, and then what looks like it would be a bolster. God, that is nice. And then the reason that, of course, that I picked up the carbon fiber version is just so I could feel satisfied in not having the FRN version. We have the same texturing going on here, the same faux bolstering going on, but you get to enjoy the carbon fiber. That's fine. Inside of this knife, by the way, you can pick up my flashlight down in the description. You can see we have milling on the steel liners. So, given all that information, the total weight on this guy comes in at 2.82 ounces. The ratios are great. It's under the 4-ounce mark that a lot of people go by. It's on the ounce and inch. It's under the ounce and inch mark as far as you know, the blade to weight ratio, or cutting edge to weight ratio even. And that is fantastic. That is really, really great. It's under 3 ounces, which on this channel means it's ultra lightweight. I don't care if the knife weighs 1 ounce or 2.9 ounces. Under 3 ounces, it's just not something that really registers to me. So ultimately what I'm saying is that this is a knife that pretty much anybody can enjoy in whatever pants, in whatever circumstance. This is just great. Unfortunately, it is over that 3-inch mark, which is going to make it illegal in some places. That's absurd, but it is what it is, right? So some people are going to have to deal with that. But rest assured, this knife is comfortable to carry in just about any circumstance, right? Any type of pants. As long as you're wearing pants, you're going to be happy having this guy on your person. This also comes in a wide variety of different flavors, right? We, of course, have the Damascus and the carbon fiber one, but you can get this knife with I think it's a satin finish blade. You can get it in blue handles and orange handles and green handles and the black handle with the black blade and the black handle with the satin blade, right? There's a whole bunch of them. They'll all be listed. If you click on that link down below, it'll show you all the different ones you can get right now. Very, very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy here. Like I said, I really like a simplistic handle shape, and I love this sort of little micro milling texture that they've got going on in the handle scales. I just love that. Everything is nicely knocked down. We have these chamfered edges here, and just a hint of shadow boxing. You see that? The liners just barely peek around the scales. It's just nice. Man, I like that. That is so cool. There is a position to mount the pocket clip on the other side for left-handed carry, and it is sunk. This clip will be sunk into the scales, which I like because it means the clip's not going to wobble around. It's so slight, though. It's really, especially on the carbon fiber version, you just barely even notice it. You know, so for people who don't like seeing that slot, this is pretty minimal, and it'll be more appealing to left-handed people, even though this is a right-handed specific liner lock. Really great. Love that Civivi puts their logo on the pivot. That doesn't bother me. Makes me think of Capsule Corp from Dragon Ball Z. I don't know why I just realized that. That just cracks me up. Anyways, the blade is an excellent, very thin clip point style blade. We have this slot in here that looks nice, goes along with the blade, and is very easily accessible. You can do that reverse flick. In fact, yeah, it's very satisfying to do that. The edges inside of this have been knocked down, so it's not going to tear up your fingernail. They've also been knocked down up here. Very nice. Flat that carries out something like 50% the length of the blade. Not a strong tip, very delicate tip, but look how thin. Oh, guys, this is a laser beam. Absolutely a performance-oriented edge. Your pokey tasks, your slicey tasks, yeah, your EDC stuff. This knife is going to make short work of your general, your everyday types of tasks. It's the type of blade that's going to be very satisfying to push through material. And you know, if cutting open a box takes you an extra half second with a thicker blade geometry, right, it's not that big of a deal, right? But boy, is it satisfying to push this blade, you know, through cardboard, through, you know, a heavily padded envelope, something like that. It just is easy. It's really great. The blade is awesome. You can choke up on this. Somehow they managed to create a pretty, I think, you know, the angle of this slope here, you can choke up on it, and it's just big enough for me to get my finger in there, right? I can do that. You're somewhat close to it, you know, given the space that they had, the space they wanted to create on the handle here to get a full 4-finger grip position, right? And then just adding the ability to get your finger in there, right? They've got this really low profile flipper tab that's not taking up a lot of room, right? So you can do it and it's comfortable, and you have to rock back a little bit. This thing's not too pointy, right? This is comfortable. It's very easy to use. Nice area up here where you can rest your thumb. There's no jimping up here, but I'm not really convinced that it actually needs it. This is great, right? Cuts like this, however it is that you're going to hold this knife. It is comfortable. This is an ergonomic dream. In fact, the scales are slightly contoured, even up top. It's not just the chamfering. There's slight contouring going on. God, that is good. This is so good. And I mean, there's lots of knives that approach this whole design, the aesthetic, the ergonomics, right? Lots of knives that approach this in this price range. Civivi actually makes a lot of them. So this is just incrementally better than some other knives that have been listed as nearly perfect, both on this channel and countless other channels, right? But this is just a little bit more perfect in so many little areas. It's so satisfying, especially considering this is a $40 knife. Oh my gosh, yes, so impressive. I told you guys this is going to be a gush festival. Screws look great. Really glad that they did black down here. Looks nice. Back here we have, I'm guessing it's just a, you know, it's a plastic backspacer. Same material right here. On the carbon fiber one, it actually, I think there are some areas where I thought maybe it was fibrous. Let me get my flashlight here real quick and I'm going to look. Yeah, so this backspacer, if you can see, there are actually, it looks like G10 fibers. This backspacer is definitely plastic. There's a difference between those two backspacers. So I think you're getting a G10 backspacer on this guy. It doesn't look like carbon fiber, right? And then I think on this, and it might be, right? It might be. It's hard to tell from that angle. And this guy, it's stiff plastic. Whatever. Liners are black. The hardware's black. The backspacer's black on this, right? It's going to be slightly different depending on the color that you get. Everything looks great. Pocket clip, just about perfect. We have a deep carry clip. We have recessed screws. We have the drop, right? Not super tall, thick, anything. It's this. The swoop comes up, and unfortunately, there's just a little bit of build. But it's raised enough that it's not going to fight most pockets, right? Should be okay. Had they just rounded it right there before it turns into a straight bill, it would have been perfect. Just that teeny tiny little nitpick right there, right? But that's okay. It's in and out of the pocket. It's been a breeze. Not that big of a deal. It's only going to be an issue if you wear really thick, heavy-duty pants and you're wanting to carry this guy. Adjustment head is over here on this guy. Otherwise, there's not much different on this side. Lockup coming in nice and just totally reasonable at about 40%, maybe 50%. Easy to disengage. Blade comes down. Click. Perfectly centered. Same way with this guy. Exactly the same. Very, very nice consistency. Click, perfectly centered. Oh boy. No rock, no wiggle, anything like that. It's solid. There's rounding back here. Nice contact on the stop pin. Same thing with this guy. Absolutely and completely solid. So, if I closed my eyes, I wouldn't know which was which. Honestly, you know, between the two, I mean, the carbon fiber, I guess, feels a little bit different, right? But if I was blindfolded and I would have a hard time telling the difference between the two. Truthfully, I guess I wonder if the carbon fiber one actually weighs a little bit more. Let's find out. I'm curious. 2.93 versus 2.86. There's a meaningless difference. Yeah, 1/10 of an ounce. So yeah, just absolutely wonderful there. No, you know, the consistency here. I have to imagine that people are going to have essentially the exact same experience as me if you pick this up. So yeah, what can I complain about here? Honestly, I can't really complain about the FRN. Would I prefer the standard version of this to come in G10? Yeah, but because of how they fitted the scale on top of the steel liner, it does not have that cheap feeling that you get normally with FRN. That and this sound and feel almost exactly the same. I would imagine G10, once again, would feel about exactly the same. The only thing that I can nitpick here is, darn it, they have a little bit of a straight bill there, but it's well done as far as these. Sometimes the tips of these just get too shallow this way, and it forces you to, you know, really fight a pocket that's just a normal pocket, right? But in this case, it's high enough where it's gonna slip over that, and truthfully, it doesn't really bother my hand. You can get a full, I wear an XL glove, I can get a full 4-finger grip on this guy. It's very comfortable. I can choke up on it. This knife's easy to manipulate. This knife hits so many little teeny tiny things on the head. This is essentially a perfect EDC knife, at least the way that I define it. Yeah, this is this is easily one of the best experiences I've had with a budget knife on this channel, and with a knife in general. Honestly, this knife would translate really well with exotic material. Well, exotic, more high-end materials, right? If we did like if this was a combination of maybe titanium and carbon fiber, and we had M390 up here, right? Or if we had carbon fiber and it was a titanium liner lock, right? If they did a more expensive version of this, it would translate extremely well. This is one of those weird knives where it doesn't really matter what materials are used. Well, I mean, it does. Obviously, there's certain materials that you want to have no matter what the price range are, but there's just a wide variety of different price ranges that this could fit into really, really well and translate well, no matter what the materials are used, no matter what, price range they're trying to squeeze it into. It works. It's also visually attractive. It's easy to manipulate. It's lightweight. It's easy to carry. There are so few people in this world that I wouldn't recommend this knife to. It's really hard. I'm actually, my mom is the most difficult person in my life to find a pocket knife that works for, right? Somebody who won't use a knife very often, who's kind of a little bit, not afraid of them, just like not familiar with pocket knives, right? And her hands aren't nearly as strong as they used to be. This is very easy to open for somebody who doesn't want to use the flipper tab. It's very easy to simply pull this blade open with the this area right here, right? This is actually a knife I'm considering buying for my mom. And that should, to tell you guys that the wide range of people who would appreciate this knife, from your mom or your grandma to, that super tactical guy who lives down the street, right? Or the knife enthusiast who's handled everything and has like a really good grasp on what to expect by different price ranges. This is excellence beyond excellence. I like a lot of Civivi knives, but truthfully, this is the best. In my opinion, this is the best knife that they've ever come out with. This is crazy good. Crazy good. And again, they're doing things that we've seen. We've got lots of liner locks out there. We got lots of flipper knives like this. We got bearings, right? This is, by the way, what's the steel? It's 9CR 18 MOV. That's perfectly fine. And for $40 is perfect. In fact, 9CR 18 MOV is pretty good. This Damascus, probably going to have performance similar to 440C. If you're buying this knife for performance, right? If you're going to spend, this guy's going to be $80. You're going to buy this one because you like how it looks. You want the carbon fiber and the Damascus. You're not going to buy this one specifically for ultimate performance that corresponds dollar for dollar, right, in this zone. This guy, dollar for dollar, is perfection. It's actually, it almost seems like too good of a price. That knife, this knife seems too nice for $40. G10 would have I wouldn't have been able to do a comprehensive review. It would just be like, the table would be shaking and I'd just be making noises like, oh, knife, good, good. That's what it would be. It'd be 20 minutes of that. That's essentially what you guys just sat through. I'd like to think that I know what I'm talking about or have a good grasp. Obviously, I'm not suggesting I've experienced everything and that I know everything, right? But I've experienced quite a bit, and I have very strong feelings about stuff that I like and don't like. I do tend to be more on the positive side, but I hope this is translating. This is definitely worth buying. It is very, very recommendable. I'm so happy with this. There's so little to complain about. If you've been considering buying a friend, family member, anybody in your life a knife as a gift, upcoming here for Christmas, I think this is just about the most excellent choice you could possibly make. No matter who it is in your life, as long as it's legal to carry where they live. And for knife enthusiasts, people who have handled knives, and handled a whole bunch of different stuff, this is great. For people who don't really care about any of that, they're just going to go out and use their knives, right? It's going to be great. It doesn't have the most durable tip in the world, but as far as EDC folding knives go, everyday carry folding knives, this is, god dang, it's just perfect. Absolutely recommendable. This knife will be going on 3 playlists. Cheap knives I like, especially this guy. Metal Complex's recommended knives, and my favorite knives of all time playlist. It is well deserving of all 3. It's not often that I do that with a budget knife. There are very few budget knives on this channel that have hit all 3 of those playlists, but this is definitely, I cannot emphasize that enough. Pick this knife up. I will link it right down in the description. You guys can check it out. All right. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it. I hope that you enjoyed this video, or at least found it mildly entertaining. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.